Hi guys, it's Mandy from Mandyleeplays, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing / ranting / explaining the newest addition to the digital dystopia age that we are living in, and that is with game key cards. I myself, as an avid physical collector, am shook because these key cards function in a way that's not really for physical collectors or even digital gamers, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Let me first explain the whole fiasco and why I'm worried about physical collecting in the future. So I rarely do rants on my channel, mainly because I really don't have much to rant about, but this one hits close to home where I have to talk about it. If you end up liking the video, then please hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy videos like this and others when it comes to JRPGs. This discussion came up because of what the Nintendo Switch 2 is doing and how they're handling this keycard fiasco. Nintendo was the one to introduce it, but I don't want to solely blame Nintendo for this because a lot of third-party games are using this keycard route. And although all this might sound alarming, I am not making this video to create panic or discourse. I'm just airing out my opinions on the matter, and please let me know yours in the comments down below. I would love to read them and see your opinion on the matter. So with all that preamble, sit back and relax as I rant about the doom of physical gaming. I want to start off with explaining the problem at hand. So what exactly is a game keycard? Keycards were introduced in the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, so along with the console, we get a whole bunch of games, but we got a whole bunch of third-party games, which is awesome. But there was this one little thing in the corner of the case that was just like, what is that? And it's called a game keycard. Keycard games are basically a marriage between physical games and digital games, and it doesn't really work out well. A game keycard for the Nintendo Switch 2 is a physical card that, when inserted into the console, allows you to download a game from the eShop. Unlike a regular game card, your data is not stored in the card itself, so you basically need the internet to unlock the game. Also, the way you would know that a game is indeed a keycard game is on the front cover. On the corner, you will see a little gray key icon, and that indicates that the game is indeed a keycard. And another thing on the cover that looks so ugly. Beautiful cover arts are dying every day. And might I add you, I really don't like the Nintendo Switch 2 game case cover. It's so cluttered. Man, do I miss the days when a case was just the ESRB rating right there and that's it. So far, it has been confirmed that most third-party games will use this keycard card method. I'll explain why in a little bit, although there are some third-party games that are not using the keycard method. Games like Cyberpunk 2077, all the games that are made by Marvelous, such as Guardians of Azuma, Daemon X Machina, and Story of Season. To those companies, I applaud you for that and thank you. So you're probably wondering, why are third-party developers using this method? And if your mind turns to it's cheaper, then you will be correct, because the whole reason they're doing this is because it's cheaper, because the Nintendo Switch is the only console that uses cartridges, and cartridges are a bit expensive compared to traditional CDs. In this aspect, we could blame Nintendo because they started this whole cartridge movement. And I understand that the Switch and the Switch 2 probably won't look as good if it had a CD disc drive, so the cartridges were inevitable. But the company itself should account for that. I'm so tired of consumers taking on all the responsibility, and all these companies are doing the bare minimum for their customers. And I'm aware that gaming is a luxury hobby, but when you think about it, that doesn't mean they could get away with charging anything for that hobby. Anyways, that's besides the point. Companies are mainly doing this because it's way cheaper to bring all these third-party games to the Nintendo Switch 2. And I also would like to note that Nintendo first-party games are confirmed to not have the game key card. So you can start seeing why developers lean this way. They get to feature their game early, cheaper, and faster. And having your game right there with the other games that are launching could really be lucrative if you think about it. So from a business standpoint, these key cards seem like a grand deal. But for the consumers, there are more cons than benefits. I'll give it credit for this. You can share the game or lend it out to different people because you still have the cartridge itself, which is basically what you need to activate the game. In that department, it works like a physical game. So I will give credit where credit is due. I like that feature. So it has one leg up compared to digital games. My 2 cents though, I think this is how they want to minimize their investments until they gauge how successful the system is. So from that standpoint, again, I understand. But why does the burden always have to be on the consumers? They could just do it like they did for the Switch 1. Just wait and see to see the sales. And I would think with the Switch 2, they'll be more confident with supporting it, especially after the performance of the Switch 1. So I don't really get this point where they want to test the waters. The water has has been tested, guys. One of the things that I'm hoping comes out of all of this mess is the pricing of the games. But from what I've seen, most of the games are about the same price as a physical copy of that game, which defeats the purpose, honestly. I actually made a tweet not that long ago stating, which nightmare scenario would you choose? $80 games or games that are key cards? And a majority of you guys would rather $80 games if you know you own your games. And keep in mind, I don't want any of these scenarios to happen, but we have an $80 Mario Kart World game and a bunch of key cards, so clearly there's a discussion to be had. So now that we got what is a key card out of the way, I'm going to explain the problem when it comes to key cards. The game key cards create an illusion that you own the physical game, but in reality, it's just a glorified digital game. So it took the whole meme of physical gamers just want games to add to their collection and look pretty on their shelves, which is a slap in the face for anyone who collects physical games. It really is, because most people collect physical games because they want to own the game. It's not because of the box art or it looks pretty. And while yes, that's a nice little extra, it's all about owning your games. The biggest problem with game key cards is the fact that you need an internet connection to get the full game. Now, to be fair and argue this in good faith, this situation isn't new when it comes to gaming. For example, the original Nintendo Switch had games that required additional downloads, or you buy a collection pack that has one game in the cart and the other game as a download. But those are the exceptions, not the rules. And you could actually see this on the game's cover. It usually has a big paragraph that basically says you have to download the next part separately, it's not in the cart, things like that. I don't want to spread misinformation, so while you do need internet access, it's just to download the game and do its updates. So don't think this is like cloud gaming where you have to be on the internet 24/7. It's still not a good thing in my opinion, and the fact that Nintendo is the one to spearhead all this stuff, and not that long ago they shut down the Nintendo 3DS online capability, it gets me really worried because the game could just disappear because the publisher just wants it to disappear. And it's even more bad if you paid full price like $60 or $70 and you don't really own your game. And I'm not even gonna get started with $80 games. That's a discussion for another video, but at least let us own our own games that we paid for. Such a simple concept. Even with digital games, there's a way where you could just own your digital games, but most companies don't like doing that because it's power to the players or something like that. So is it asking too much or being entitled to the game that you paid full price for? I don't think that's entitlement. But that's not it, because another problem that could arise is with the drive space. When you get a 50GB game, it will eat up your internal memory. And keep in mind, games are getting bigger and bigger, but if most of these key cards are going to be a thing, that's going to take a lot of space from your internal console hard drive, which in turn you have to buy a separate external memory hard drive like an SD card or something. And it's no coincidence that they advertised the first ever Nintendo Switch 2 1TB SD card around the time where the Switch 2 was announced. That is no coincidence. And while the Switch 2 does advertise a bigger space, it's gonna add up if you have a ton of key cards. It's honestly not that much of an issue, but to some people it might be. And I could go on and on with the little nuances that, if you take a second to really think about it, probably isn't best for the consumers. And while yes, there are many benefits, especially when it comes to digital gaming, key cards are probably one step ahead, but it's still bad for people like me who like physical games. And honestly, I'm not a business person or an economist, and if I'm missing something that's really glaring, please let me know in the comments down below. Now for the next part, I do want to offer some solutions for this whole key card fiasco, but before we get into that, I do know that some games are just key card games, like Bravely Default, one of my favorite series of all time, is just a key card game. So I'm gonna have to buy that version of the game. But for different games, there are alternatives. First of all, do express your opinions about key cards. If you don't like them, it's okay to say it. But the most prime and effective option is to vote with your wallet. Although some games are just key cards, and if it's your favorite game, you'll probably have to suck it up and buy it. But if you could find the game physically on a different console or on the Switch 1, buy that copy easy and just put in your Switch and upgrade it if it has an upgrade. For example, the Raidou remake, I'm gonna probably get on my PlayStation 5 physically because for the Nintendo Switch 2, it's only a key card. So if you have options like that, then always go for a physical on a different console. And back to the Raidou game, they did one of the most scummiest things where they have a version for the Switch 1, but you can't upgrade it for the Switch 2 version. If that doesn't scream anti-consumer practices, then I don't know what will. And I know in the back of my mind, they're gonna do a Metaphor ReFantazio like deluxe edition for the Switch 2 with new content and stuff, and it's only gonna be keycard. Hopefully that doesn't come true, but if it does, you heard it here first, folks. And I hope that some developers don't take this option, but it's expensive to just do the whole cart, and I understand that, especially for indie games. I have a lot of indie games that are just digital because they can't really afford a physical port. But if it's a bigger company with a lot of sales and a lot of money, then really you have no excuse. Another thing is to really support the devs and publishers who are not going this whole keycard route, like Marvelous with Guardians of Azumia and Cyberpunk 2077. So at the end, just really gauge on what you're supporting and why. And I do understand that some people are okay with this or are supporting Nintendo on this, and while I don't agree, I still do respect your opinion, and hopefully you could respect my opinion. Although it's hard sometimes, especially when these people go in hard like they're paid by Nintendo or something, because I don't understand this hostileness to something that's anti-consumer when you're the consumer. If you like this video, then please hit that like button, would appreciate it. It helps the video a lot. And if you like this video and want to see more content, especially when it comes to JRPGs and other discussions of the like, then please consider subscribing. I would appreciate that too. I don't usually do rants, but I feel like I just had to get stuff off my chest. So I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the day, and as always, play a good game. Peace, peace.